The room is silent, but not calm. In a scene often described in accounts of her trial, a cold Paris courtroom holds its breath. Soldiers stand along the walls, boots fixed like pillars. At the center, a woman sits alone. No stage, no music, no audience to charm. Only judges, only accusations. Her name is whispered before it's spoken aloud. Dangerous now, not dazzling. Mata Hari. Once, she controlled every gaze in the room. Now, every gaze is deciding what she is, and what she might have been. Let's step back, not into the courtroom, but into a different Paris. Before the war, before suspicion, before the word traitor followed her name. The lights are warm, almost golden, spilling over velvet seats. The air is thick with perfume, cigarette smoke, and anticipation, like the room itself is waiting for something it doesn't yet understand. In a small theater, conversation fades as the performance begins. Silk veils descend slowly, one layer at a time. The crowd leans forward not just to see, but to believe. Mata Hari moves deliberately, not just dancing, but constructing something. A story. Every gesture feels intentional, measured, almost ritualistic. Her presence doesn't rush to explain itself. It invites interpretation, and in that ambiguity, people begin to project meaning onto her. She tells audiences she is from the East, that her movements are sacred, ancient, passed down through traditions far older than Paris itself. This is likely an invention, or at least a carefully shaped reinterpretation of fragments from her past, arranged into something more striking than biography. She was born in the Netherlands. She lived for a time in colonial Indonesia, but the identity she presents is something else entirely. Something designed, and it works. Because Paris doesn't just watch her. Paris believes her. Soon, theaters are not enough. She is increasingly invited into private salons, according to accounts from the period rooms filled with officers, diplomats, and people close to political and military decision-making. Here, her influence takes a different form. Not authority, not official power, but access. She becomes a presence in elite circles where conversations about war, alliances, and strategy quietly unfold. Different men see different versions of her. A lover, a confidant, a fantasy, and possibly, though never clearly proven, a contact point for information. Because then, the world changes. War begins. The year turns to 1914. Europe fractures, trust collapses, borders harden, and in wartime, movement itself becomes suspicion. Mata Hari moves constantly, across countries, across shifting lines of allegiance. What once made her powerful now makes her visible, dangerously visible. Some accounts suggest she struggled financially during the war, that her former lifestyle, once sustained by attention and patronage, began to collapse. Others suggest she adapted, searching for new ways to survive in a world that no longer rewarded performance alone. And somewhere in that uncertainty, intelligence services enter the picture. There are claims she came into contact with German intelligence circles, later French intelligence as well. But none of this is clean or fully confirmed. Her involvement in intelligence networks, if it existed at all, remains debated, fragmented across incomplete records and conflicting interpretations. What is clearer is her position. A mobile, independent woman in wartime Europe. Fluent in access, skilled in presence, comfortable in elite spaces. And in that environment, visibility itself becomes dangerous. Because she was not just moving through countries, she was moving through suspicion. Paris, 1917. She is arrested. The transition is immediate. No stage lights, no audience, no performance. Only interrogation rooms. Questions that don't invite interpretation, only answers. She is accused of espionage for Germany, but the evidence is not presented in a fully transparent way. The trial is a closed military trial conducted during wartime conditions where secrecy and urgency shaped procedure. Much of the evidence is described as circumstantial, intercepted messages, alleged communications, interpretations layered on top of uncertainty. Her past becomes her prosecution, her travels, her relationships, her visibility. Everything that once gave her access now becomes suspicion. Not because it clearly proves guilt, but because it can be framed that way. And in wartime Paris, framing matters. Because, in the end, her story isn't just about espionage. It's about identity. She built the identity the world wanted to see, and used it to access power no one expected her to reach. Every detail was intentional, every movement controlled. Her story reflects something deeply modern. That perception can be constructed. That identity can open doors. That visibility is a form of access. But it also reveals the limit of that power. Because once perception leaves your control, it doesn't just change, it can turn. And in wartime Paris, where fear needed focus and uncertainty needed a face, that turn became dangerous. 3 lessons emerge not as slogans, but as patterns we still recognize today. First, building a compelling personal identity creates opportunity, but also vulnerability. The stronger the image, the harder it is to reclaim once others redefine it. Second, perception can outweigh reality. In moments of crisis, what is believed can matter more than what is proven. Third, risk is inseparable from visibility. But when visibility is not controlled, it can become exposure. Mata Hari may have been involved in intelligence circles. She may have had limited or indirect roles. She may have been misread entirely. The truth remains uncertain, but the story remains clear. A woman who understood the power of illusion and lived long enough to see how easily it could be turned against her.
If this story moved you, there are more like it on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.